criminal's gonna criminal because criminals always do criminaling when they're trying to be a criminal.
Criminals are always going to criminal. Okay, they make their living out of breaking the law. What makes you think that they're going to
not figure out another way to break the law?
Yeah,
it's stupid.
It is stupid. It is stupid. But
you're not gonna make a perfect utopian society.
Yeah,
but you can at least try and do the right things to make it a little bit closer.
Yeah. Miss Lujan Grisham of New Mexico apparently thinks she could just suspend your constitutional rights because an emergency. Let's check it out.
Today said she was expecting pushback, but she held her ground as she announced a 30-day ban on open and concealed carry laws in Bernalillo County. News 13's Gabe Chavez was in Santa Fe for that news conference, and tonight has the outrage it has sparked.
Jessica, the move angered many leaders, including the police union, who say they feel strongly that this is a violation of the Second Amendment rights of citizens. A city councilor worries it will make the city more dangerous. There are a lot of questions tonight, including if the order is even legal and how it will be enforced.
No one right now in New Mexico, and particularly in Albuquerque, is safe in a movie theater, at a park, at a school, at a grocery store, at an Isotopes game.
The governor's public health order states gun violence and drug abuse statewide has caused a health emergency. It then lists orders, including stating no person other than law enforcement officers or licensed security officers shall possess a gun openly or concealed in public, in counties averaging more than 1,000 violent crimes per 100,000 people. Meaning this would only apply to Bernalillo County, which the governor also pointed out has a high number of emergency room visits for gun injuries. And she says she's had enough with children being killed.
But I have to take a tough, direct stand where basically I'm just ignoring the fact that we lost an 11-year-old.
The governor says she knows criminals won't listen to this order, but she hopes the public will and start reporting gun crimes. She says it will be enforced by state police as a civil offense, which she acknowledges may be tough to carry out.
The purpose is to try to create a cooling off period while we figure out how we can better address public safety and gun violence. So if this encourages the public to help us create a safer environment, I'm in. So it does do that, and people want action. That's my belief. They want every possible action, and I'm doing everything I know to do.
Lady, listen, Governor, being in Chicago, okay, we can tell you from firsthand experience that having strict gun laws or trying to restrict guns in the community isn't going to help. And the funny thing is, she admits this. She's like, "Well, I know it's not going to deter criminals. So then, why would you do it?" Well, we're going to make our community safer by banning guns on certain property. And it doesn't say that she's going to confiscate guns. If you see what it says, I think it said something like you can't be on state property or some things with a gun, a firearm. So that's not terrible. If the problem is criminals will not listen to that. They'll just do it. And then you just hope that police are there to arrest them. But here's a funny thing. Criminals will be committing crime anyway, which is why they'll be arrested anyway. But now what you're going to do is if there's an average person there who has potentially a permit in New Mexico, in Illinois, you can have a FOID card, which allows you to have a gun. We also have concealed carry here in Illinois, so you can have that, which means you can carry on your person as long as it's concealed. I assume New Mexico may have similar laws on their books and similar things that that citizens can do. So now what you're saying is if somebody has a proper permit for concealed carry and the ability to have a firearm in the state of New Mexico, and they're on a state property, and then some shit goes down with a criminal, that person could potentially use their firearm to save people if they're licensed and able to do so. And then if they do, you are going to arrest them and put them at the full penalty of the law of the federal government of Mexico? That's what this is saying now, basically.
Yeah.
And that's that's stupid. The one thing you should do is have good, honest citizens who care about their rights, particularly Second Amendment rights, with the ability to have guns and deal with that. Also, how about a bigger police presence? How about stuff like that? Now, it doesn't go into that. Maybe she has some plans about that. We're focusing more on this area of this legislation or order that she's coming out with, talking about the banning of guns. But it's it's just well, let me tell you this. It doesn't sound like it's working out too well for her.
No. And I think
It doesn't seem like it's going too well.
thank God that there are still some Democratic officials in a Democratic state who see how nuts this is. What has really struck me over the past 10 years is that what I think one of the most overplayed words, and not just in American politics, but American society, is fascism. Everything is fascist, 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 fascist. Do you know what's actual fascism? Is having a governor or sorry, you know what's actually fascism? Having someone in political office uniformly for executive order just suspend your constitutional rights. That is actual fascism. And this is the closest thing a politician in the United States has come to that point. Thank God
Okay,
there are
well,
still elected officials
look,
in
look.
New Mexico who have said that this is a complete overreach.
I'm
You
gonna
can't just
defend.
suspend.
I'm gonna
You
defend her
can't
here.
just suspend a constitutional
Okay,
amendment.
she's not.
You
She's
can't.
okay. I don't agree with that. I think it's stupid what she's doing. She's not doing that. Now that I've listened to this a little bit more, she's not saying you can't have a gun. She's not going and confiscating your gun. What she's doing is saying that on government properties and some other government assisted properties, whatever, based on what that statute said,
Mm.
you are not going to be able to carry a gun, even though you have a constitutional amendment that allows you to bear arms. It doesn't necessarily give you the right because there's still local ordinances, city ordinances, and state ordinances that also are the law of that particular land. Federal law obviously supersedes everything,
So
but
you don't
even
think
then,
that's what she was saying here?
no, look. This is what I actually think. I think she's a governor who's, as she said here, there's some kids that are getting killed. She's upset about it. She's trying to do something. It's not the right thing. It's not the best. It's a terrible thing. Honestly, it's the worst thing you could be doing. There are so many other solutions. But I don't think now that I've listened to more, and when I saw the initial thing of her saying, "Well, in the case of an emergency, you can suspend stuff," I think that was a faux pas of how she spoke. She doesn't strike me as a woke leftist governor. I think she's
Well,
more
she's
more
still a
along the
Democrat
lines.
in New Mexico, so she
That
has to
doesn't,
be.
but
Well, no,
based
no,
on
I
how
mean,
she's talking, I mean,
like,
I don't know everything about her, so
no,
I'm just saying
well, what I
off of this
mean,
initial
well,
clip, she doesn't seem like a crazy person.
what I mean by that is that being a Democrat in New Mexico, she can't be some just complete absolute woke communist. Like Democrats in New Mexico are
Yeah, they're a little
conservative
more,
Democrats who still
middle
have
of the road.
some common sense.
And that's what she strikes me as. She's trying to do something. I'll give her credit for that. It's the wrong thing.
Okay.
And that's why.
So you
and
don't-
fair play to her. She's saying she's going to reevaluate it, which means they're probably going to make changes because of all
Well,
the
she has to
backlash.
reevaluate it now because our own attorney general won't enforce it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
this is okay. So
Okay,
I don't think
so-
she was. I don't think she was actually trying to suspend constitutional rights. She doesn't strike me as doing that like they would do in California,
Oh, really?
Portland, or Oregon, or Washington, or something like that.
Okay.
But she's making the wrong choice. And here is actually the bigger issue about what she's saying and this whole thing is that we continue, and this is her thinking, and this is the issue that I will say Democrats and the left typically will have with this, is that the argument is always if there is gun violence, then the issue must be that there are guns. And
Yes.
therefore, if we get rid of guns, then there will no longer
Would
be an
violence,
issue.
yeah.
And that is the wrong thinking. What you need to do is attack the reasons why those things like are happening. So, like for example, and this might be the case in New Mexico as well, but like in Chicago, why a lot of the crime is done by people in the south and west sides.
Yeah.
Okay, why is that? It's super impoverished
Yes.
in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
There's lack of emphasis of getting an education, which means there's a lack of funding to those schools because a lot of the property taxes in those schools come from the communities that go into schools, meaning they have less money to even have the resources to provide a
No.
good education.
No.
And then if you don't have the resources to have a good education, then you continue to to propagate a society and culture in those areas of saying, well, education isn't going to get me anywhere. So
I might as
I
well
want,
join the gang.
and if I'm
Yeah.
a young man, I want access to women. And how do I get access to women? I want access
Money.
to money. I want access to status. What is going to get me access to money and status very quickly? Being in a gang. There's also, you get brotherhood and camaraderie with other men in
Yes.
in a gang, because now it's tribal, it's territorial, it's conquest. If you're in government, you have to dissect these things and find a way to attack all of those issues at one time. Poor education, poverty in the area where usually the criminal activity comes out of, lack of opportunity for employment, these types of things. You need to attack all three of those things head on. But you know what's the number one thing you have to do in order to secure businesses staying in an area, secure um, safety of schools, so children can go to school and get an education, and start to foster a feeling in those communities that education will actually help them to get out of their circumstance. You need security and safety in those
Yes.
communities. So really, what she should be doing is trying to, and maybe she is, credit to her. Maybe she is having those conversations. But I find a lot of time these things are, a lot of promises are typically made and stuff, but nobody actually seriously dives into those issues and attacks it head on. And they go, well, we're going to put more money in education. That's not going to do jack shit, because you're going to put a bunch of money in the education. The problem is the people in those communities don't foster a system of education, of
Or
saying like
respect for
education is going to get out of there.
Or education is my way out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you got to attack that at the exact same time. But what's the big thing? Stopping crime. We're gonna put more business in there.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
you put business in there, and then they get stolen, and there's crime and looting and stuff. Those businesses leave, and then again, all those people. So then what? People go and they commit violent crimes and steal and do all these things.
See,
because they feel like they have no other way out in their situation.
This solution has been followed on a bipartisan basis. If you just look at the 90s and 2000s in New York, you had Giuliani and Bloomberg, whose priority was ramping up the NYPD to attack crime and turn New York from the cesspit it was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s into one of the safest cities on the planet. And now that those two have gone, it's starting to reverse back to what it was.
Yeah. It's happening all over
the country. Yeah. It seems
and
like
I believe it's
to repeat.
It's
the
a
70s.
systematic attack to do so, and it's terrible, and it needs to be corrected.
You are right in when you state that Democrats' first reaction is to blame the gun, and they think that if you take away the gun, therefore less crime. What I have found in experience is a gun is in and of itself just an inanimate object. It can't kill anything by itself. A human has to make the decision to use that gun to kill someone or to harm someone. And every time you blame the inanimate object, you're taking responsibility away from the person who decided to use it with ill intent. And you're starting to see this a lot in, say, in London.
Yeah, that's usually the argument.
And you see that in London at the moment with knives. Honestly, Sadiq Khan is wanting to bring in knife control because a lot of the London gangs are stabbing each other.
Criminals gonna criminal because criminals always do criminaling when they're trying to be a criminal.
Criminals are always going to criminal. Okay, they make their living out of breaking the law. What makes you think that they're going to
not figure out another way to break the law?
Yeah.
It's stupid.
It is stupid. It is stupid. But
you're not gonna make a perfect utopian society.
Yeah.
But you can at least try and do the right things to make it a little bit closer.
Yeah.
And what she was suggesting ain't it.
No.
And it looks like she's coming around. And good on her. Honestly, I respect her a lot more if she does try something else. I think she has to. I think she was emotionally upset, like a lot of other people in the community, seeing an 11-year-old kid be killed.
And then that
and she's trying to do something.
I get it.
And I respect her for that.
And
I applaud her and respect her for that. It was the wrong thing. Enough of the people around her said, hey, that ain't it. She went, okay, let's reevaluate in 30 days, which is political mumbo jumbo for we ain't gonna do this. We'll think of something else.
Yeah.
But we need
And-
30 days to think of something else.
and frankly, she kind of has to if your own attorney general won't enforce the law,
Yeah.
and if the sheriff of your largest county is not going to enforce
That's
it.
right. Yeah, she
You
pretty
know,
much got shut
like,
down right away.
Yeah, kind of basically.
Yeah.
So,
So there you go.
there
So
are
kudos to her
Yeah, absolutely,
that.
and there are good old-fashioned conservative Democrats in power who still have common sense.
Yes,
And
that's nice
really,
to see.
That is really refreshing.
That is refreshing. Yes.
Really refreshing.
Yay, America!
Yay!
We can get along. It's possible. Just don't be stupid.